Everybody has secrets, some more deadly than others.
You think you know somebody, only to find out it's the exact opposite.
It's something that'll screw with your mind for a long time.
For Zoe Pulver and Jane Long, work can be murder.
I was scared to come into work. I never came in by myself.
They laid it out. If I didn't do it, I was some way involved.
But the horrific truth proves it's easy to be deceived.
Of course he didn't do it, because there's no way I'm hanging out with a murderer.
Between the ocean and the Indian River Lagoon, the town of Fort Pierce, Florida is an oasis overflowing with charm. But a steady job is one thing 31-year-old Zoe Pulver's new home has yet to provide.
I moved down here when the economy was taking a complete dive, so I was desperate. I just saw this ad on Craigslist, and I was expecting a law firm, and instead it was a big house on a beautiful property.
This is clearly not an ordinary workplace. And the guy who runs the firm, Ashley Pollow, isn't an ordinary tax attorney.
When I went to the job interview, I certainly was nervous.
Luckily, Zoe's got a friend on the inside.
Hey, Zoe.
A former colleague, Tom Bernard.
Hey, Tom.
Tom was part of the sales floor, and he was what was called a closer. So he was one of the people that brought on new clients and sold deals.
So this is Jane.
Hi, I'm Ashley's assistant.
I worked for Ashley Pollow doing miscellaneous tasks, whether it be administrative or things around the house.
I'll take you up to him.
He had the storm shelter in the back, which got everybody's attention. Ashley truly felt that the end of the world was coming. It was just a plain white door in the ground.
Did you call? What's her negotiating position? Did you sense any leeway on that?
They said that I was going to do the interview with him in the bedroom. And of course I thought that was slightly odd.
Yeah, I heard you. That's unacceptable.
They opened up the doors to the bedroom, and he was sitting in the bedroom in a chair with this thing over his head that was kind of glowing.
Mm-hmm.
It would have a whole bunch of red laser lights pointing onto his head to help him grow his hair. He was in that chair daily, almost all day.
And he has authority to speak for them?
He had every vitamin that you could imagine, thinking that it was going to keep him healthy.
Well, no, I'm sorry, that's just not going to work. If they don't back down, we'll have to invoke Article 6.3.
Ashley could almost flip a switch and be lawyer guy, and it was fascinating.
Do you know what Article 6.3 is?
Yes, it surmises that a taxpayer who's...
Enough, you're hired. Now let's talk about asset forfeiture. Yeah, well, they can have either the Bentley or the country house, but they can't take both.
Hey, don't thank me yet.
Jane and Tom's reactions was very strange. It put me off a little bit, but Ashley offered me $1,000 a week. So, given where the economy was and everything else, I took it.
It doesn't take so long to realize, at Ashley's firm, one needs to expect the unexpected.
What the hell, Tom?
He's like, my underwear are all stretched out.
Did you do this?
Ashley, please, just relax.
Tom's telling him, of course, he didn't go into his bedroom and put his underwear on.
Listen to what you're saying.
The first week went on, and I was becoming a little unsure of the environment. So strange. But you could definitely tell that he needed Tom.
You've got a call with a client in 2 minutes.
Could you do it?
Of course.
Ashley depended on Tom for just about everything. Every week there was more expected out of Tom. And Tom wouldn't say anything, he would just do it.
Tom covered for him when he was acting extra crazy or whatever.
Hello, Mr. Willis. This is Ashley Pollow from ARP. I've got good news for you today, and it's not going to cost you nearly as much as you thought.
Unfortunately, a few months earlier, Ashley got himself into some trouble. Trouble that Tom couldn't help him with.
Ashley had a woman working for him, and her boyfriend felt that Ashley either made inappropriate passes at her or was horrible to her in some way.
I was called out there as a detective. The individual drove through the front gates with his vehicle all the way up to the front step of the house. He grabbed a crystal bowl and threw that at him.
Ashley had some scarring on his head, and there was blood all over the house.
And when deputies arrived, they saw a guy on top of him trying to choke him.
And so the man was charged with attempted murder.
He was very upset that he wasn't successful in killing Ashley Pollow.
Strangely enough, these events helped the ARP team form a tight bond.
Man, that machine he has in his room.
Is Ashley okay, though?
He's a bit emotionally unstable. But he's still the best tax attorney in the county.
Ashley did not leave the house very often. Ashley had problems, and that was almost what made you feel bad for him, knowing that it wasn't always something that he could control.
I just kind of went with the flow, and I didn't necessarily feel threatened.
But barely a month later, Zoe's belief that working at ARP is safe is shattered.
I came in, and they were cleaning up glass everywhere.
What's going on?
And they just said that Ashley had a bad night, and he had smashed his TV, and they were cleaning it all up.
You are a thief!
But you told me to.
Ashley, calm down.
Ashley would send you out to run some personal errands, and he would give you his credit card, and he would tell you, fill up your gas tank, pick you up, whatever you need.
She didn't do anything wrong.
One moment, he's offering you whatever you want, and then the next, he's accusing you of stealing from him.
Are you okay?
He would go through these moments of rage. He would be screaming at people and storming around and just yelling and, very aggressive.
For Ashley's employees, it's clear a toxin has entered the health fanatic's environment.
She had a presence about her that was very strange and very off.
A presence that will destroy far more than friendships.
I remember it like it's a horror movie. He said, "Hey, did you hear about Ashley?"
To call Ashley Pollow's law firm an unorthodox place to work is an understatement.
Yeah, it's great.
And in late 2010, his home office starts getting dangerously weird.
Nice.
Ashley was paying for companionship on the weekends when we weren't there. We would see evidence of a woman being there over the weekend, whether there be makeup on the towel in the bathroom or somebody left his shoe.
Ashley.
Ashley believed that Armageddon was coming.
He definitely had this religious undertone to some of his preaching or whatever it was he was doing.
He just truly thought the end of the world was coming.
Happy end of the world, my fellow Americans. We're all going to die. Judgment is coming.
Enough with the religious ranting already.
You carry the mark of the beast. Your end will be the sweetest end of them all.
For Michelle Lockridge, a divorced mother of 3, there is no reason to fear the boss. She has protective status dating his right-hand man, Tom Bernard.
Ashley told Michelle that she was going to hell. Anybody that didn't see things the way that he did or believed the things that he did was going to hell.
Ashley had really offended her and Michelle hit him. Michelle would certainly not express that she was fearful of Ashley in any way. He seemed to be kind of spiraling, getting more frequent and worse throughout the days.
Okay. I'm sorry, Ashley, but this is too much. I'm done.
It was just mentally draining me. I didn't want to hear the negativity or the yelling, and it just was not good for me.
Jane's decision to leave sparks a mutiny at ARP.
Oh my goodness. Certainly I couldn't stay there. By then, it was down to Tom and Michelle. Everybody else was gone at that point. Tom was the only person that was there for him, that did anything for him, that really would go out of his way.
Tom truly cared about Ashley.
The only reason you're not getting fired is that everyone else is gone. You should probably get back to work.
Keeping the business afloat turns out to be a lot of work for the couple. Though Michelle still finds time to share Ashley's dirt with those who left.
I found a job somewhere else, but I stayed in contact with Tom and Michelle. Michelle would be like giving me the play-by-play of Ashley for the day of, oh, he's sitting in the office right now screaming Armageddon. And I'm like, you guys need to find other jobs.
I don't think he realized that he was spiraling out of control.
Ashley belongs in a kennel with all the other wild animals.
But at that point, nobody was involved in his life to maybe try to push him to get any kind of help.
For years, protecting Ashley and the firm had been Tom's position. But he decides it's time to step into a new role.
Tom and Michelle, they got engaged, and there was tons of posts from Michelle of her engagement ring, which was beyond their means, in my opinion. And I found that very strange. I never cared for Michelle, but something was off with Tom as well. I just had a weird gut feeling something was wrong.
Around Thanksgiving, Michelle's posts come to a stop. For Jane, the long week of silence is unsettling.
He kept trying to call Ashley's phone, and not getting any answers made me even more nervous. So I took it upon myself to go to his house to see if I could figure out what was going on.
With no one at the firm answering Jane's calls or messages, there is no telling what harm Ashley may cause himself or others.
And of course, at that time, it's dark. It's probably about 9 o'clock in the evening.
On the porch, she sees something that doesn't make sense.
Looking at the box, I could see that it was all of his hair care and vitamin products. He wouldn't have ordered it if he didn't think he would be home to get it. As I'm knocking and he's not answering, I become extremely nervous. And I don't know if anybody else is there, what I might stumble across. I'm trying to calm myself down, and I want to look around to see if I can find him, but it's very dark. The entire time, I'm telling myself I'm just overreacting, there's a logical explanation, everything will be fine.
Hey, Ashley, it's Jane. If you get this, call me back.
I was immediately sick to my stomach. It was just this feeling that overwhelmed me. I called the police and asked them to go check on him.
When the truth emerges, it's not what anyone expects.
Armageddon had come. Something was in that shelter.
Something's not right. Why would you suggest that?
They wanted to know where I was, what I was doing, how did you know?
This truly was a whodunit.
A week after Thanksgiving, Jane Long can't find her ex-employer, Ashley Pollow, anywhere. With his history of violent outbursts, she comes to fear for the man she once feared.
The road patrol officer got called out in reference to a possible missing persons. He found a door that was open in the rear of the residence. Inside, you go into his bedroom, it was a mess. There was TV that had a broken screen. There's mattresses upstairs, stacked up and stuff.
This is a higher-end home here, and the interior was kind of shabby. The flooring was just the concrete. Like in the kitchen, there was no flooring, it's just plain concrete. There were cigarette burns everywhere.
And there was blood stains and stuff from the first case 6 months prior when he got attacked that he never cleaned. Smudges on the walls or on the floor, on a sofa.
And the most unusual thing is that Ashley Pollow, a confirmed recluse, is nowhere to be found.
I was hoping to have heard something, and I heard nothing all day.
The waiting game gives Jane time to think. Ashley isn't the only one she hasn't heard from. His right-hand man, Tom Bernard, and Tom's girlfriend, Michelle Lockridge, are oddly quiet as well.
You know, I haven't seen Michelle post anything in a little while. I had just assumed that they had quit because the stories had stopped.
Hey, Michelle. I haven't been able to get a hold of Ashley. Are you and Tom still working there?
I went in after Thanksgiving and Ashley wasn't around.
Michelle, that was over a week ago.
They both had keys to his house. So for her to say, we showed up one day and nobody was around, so we left, that just doesn't make any sense.
Okay, well, if you hear from him, can you please let me know? Thanks. Bye. Yes?
The police said they couldn't find him. And at that point, okay, here's my gut feeling. I know this is gonna sound crazy.
Did you check the storm shelter?
It was just this feeling that came over me that Armageddon had come. Something was in that shelter. And he says, no ma'am, it's all chained up, it's locked. We have no way of getting in.
Key. There is no key.
And that is when I lost it.
She said that was not normal to have it locked up like that. She's never seen it locked.
Somebody had obviously been there. And I think they sensed the panic in my voice when I told them that's just not possible.
Listen to me. You have to open that door.
They had said, okay, we'll call you back.
That's when they went and got some tools out of their car and took the handle off the storm shelter to open it up.
True to their word, the police do call. They called Jane down to the station.
Part of me was a little anxious, hoping that I could give them some sort of information that would be helpful.
We looked into the storm shelter as you suggested.
Okay. And?
We found Mr. Pollow inside.
Is he okay?
Miss Long, your former employer is dead.
Mr. Pollow was laying in the storm bunker on his back, so he was face up.
Not only you had the sights, but you have odors also. That would have been a very grisly discovery. Whoever did this, put him in the storm shelter and try to destroy the body with acid. The medical examiner did the autopsy and saw that the bones in the larynx were broken. So we had the cause of death, which was from strangulation or choking.
I did know about the murder attempt in 2010. Somebody came over there trying to murder Ashley Pollow.
But there's no way it could be the same assailant.
The guy was in jail for attempted murder charges. He has no bond. He's staying there. He's not going anywhere.
We have no idea who had killed Mr. Pollow.
He didn't have a whole lot of friends, but he always had a lot of different employees. So, you know, it was just a matter of who would hate him this much to kill him.
It changed very quickly. They were very serious. They wanted to know where I was, what I was doing, how did you know?
You made a suggestion to look into the storm fallout shelter thing.
Storm shelter. If somebody tried to put a body somewhere, that would be like a smart place to hide them, I would guess.
A smart place.
Anybody that calls and gives information like, hey, check the storm shelter because he might be in there, something's not right. Why would you suggest that?
Wait, you don't think I had anything to do with this?
They laid it out, explaining how I knew more than I should, and if I didn't do it, I was some way involved.
The tension builds as the search for the killer grows more and more desperate.
I got scared that I might be getting to something bigger than what I knew of.
There's no way I'm hanging out with a murderer.
This is ridiculous. I want to go home now.
I was scared that he was going to have me help him in some way.
From the start, Ashley Pollow's murder casts a hard light on his former employees. And the first person to face police interrogation is his former assistant, Jane Long.
Wait, you don't think I had anything to do with this?
They started questioning who might have done it. And I explained to them that there was this horrible gut instinct.
I think that it was Tom and Michelle.
They were the last ones there, and if Ashley doesn't go anywhere or speak to anyone, they somehow were involved. So at that point, the police seemed to back off a little bit. They had asked me to not share any information with anybody until the investigation was over.
But playing by the rules is not Jane's thing.
Once I got home, I wanted to just feel it out.
Where did they find him? How did they find him?
I was hoping that I was wrong. But Michelle got extremely upset, and you could tell she was in a panic mode.
It's a reaction Jane isn't prepared for.
I don't know.
I got scared that I might be getting myself into something bigger than what I knew of. So I then started blocking my number, and I was too afraid to open the door.
As for Tom, his reaction to the news of Ashley Pollow's death is far less telling.
Tom asked if he could come work for the company I was working for, and I was like, great, sure, come on. And a couple days later, I was in my office, and Tom came in, and I remember it like it's a horror movie. He said, hey, did you hear about Ashley? Or you got killed? And I'm like, oh my God, that's horrible. And Tom was just saying, yeah, I can't believe it. You know, Michelle's really broken up about it.
Through the investigation, we learned that there was only Tom and Michelle left as employees working for Mr. Pollow. That was the last you saw him. That would have been the 27th, which was a Saturday. Did you go hear from him on Sunday?
Yeah, he called me Sunday, early in the morning. Woke me up.
You never went over there on Sunday? No. He said that the last they were down there was Saturday, which we knew was not true.
The cell phone records made it pretty easy to figure out that Mr. Barnard went on the 28th to the residence. Now, this was a Sunday. You know, why would Mr. Barnard say the last time I saw Mr. Pollow was on the 27th when he had gone down on the 28th?
Next up for investigators is Michelle.
You cannot tell the truth. You're telling all kinds of different things.
I'm just trying to answer your questions, and you guys are trying to make me feel like I have done something to this man, and I haven't done anything to him.
You can't tell me your whereabouts from Friday. During her interview, there were so many inconsistencies. I mean, just one after another with timelines and what she was doing, where she was going.
Cell phone records also place Michelle near Ashley's on the 28th.
I didn't do anything to him, so just stop, okay?
If this was you and your family wanted us to solve what happened to you, and we're gonna do what we gotta do.
This is ridiculous. You're making it sound like I've done something to him and I haven't. I want to go home now.
She got extremely upset with me, did not want to talk to me any longer, and stormed out of the interview.
We got a search warrant for Lockridge and Barnard's residence in Vero Beach to see if there was any other evidence. Thomas had bought several CSI books. It was kind of odd that he had earmarked pages to get rid of fingerprints and that sort of thing.
But I didn't have enough evidence there to support a murder charge.
While investigators are circling Tom and Michelle, Zoe has no idea.
Tom was doing great, hitting big numbers, doing a fantastic job. Cool as a cucumber on the phone and everything.
And when his car is impounded by police, Tom plays it off as doing all he can for the investigation.
He called me up one morning and said I can't get to work because my car's down in Port St. Lucie. And of course, being me, I was like, all right, well, I'll pick you up, we'll go get your car. So I bring him down to the police station. I found it odd that the cops were investigating them so much. Obviously, Tom didn't do it. I'm like, of course he didn't, and because there's no way I'm hanging out with a murderer.
As the weeks pass, the investigation into Tom and Michelle stalls. Investigators wonder, could the pool of suspects be bigger than initially thought? There's one piece of evidence left that investigators hope can answer that.
Key. There is no key.
My hunches were starting to make a little more sense.
When the deputies went to the scene initially, they could see that the chain and padlock, they were new. There was no weathering on it. So I made it my mission, calling up this store. I started working my way down through their county into St. Lucie County. So I said, can you tell me the last time this one padlock was sold? And they're like, yeah, sure, give me a second.
Bingo.
Somebody bought a lock and chain on November 29th.
So I said, do you happen to have surveillance video for that?
Police are closing in on the truth.
I would be saying, hey, why am I sitting in jail for something I didn't do?
A truth so shocking, no one could be trusted.
I'm never gonna see my kids again because you did some bad.
It's been over a month since Ashley Pollow's murder, but police believe they have the key to crack the case.
Somebody bought a lock and chain on November 29th.
The question is, which of Ashley's former employees will appear on the surveillance footage.
One of the security guys pulls up the date and time of the purchase, and it's Thomas Bernard on video buying the padlock and getting a couple feet of that chain.
At work, his friend Zoe Pulver is confronted by the horrific truth.
My coworker, David, was sitting in a chair, and he was just very pale.
David, are you okay?
Tom, at the bar last night, he told me.
Tom said, "Do you want to know what really happened?" and confessed the entire murder to David.
Don't try to tell me that girlfriend of yours hasn't been ripping me off.
Maybe she was just paying some of your bills.
One phone call when she's behind bars.
Tom would do anything to protect Michelle.
Okay, fine. It's her funeral.
Tom called Michelle and said, "Ashley's going to have you arrested for theft."
There's only one way to take care of this.
And that Michelle told him to turn around and go kill Ashley. Tom strangled Ashley, and he told David that it took 8 minutes for him to die.
To put your hands around somebody's neck and squeeze the life out of them, you know, that's a personal thing. It takes an evil person to do that.
It is something that'll screw with your mind to how personal that murder was because of the relationship with Ashley.
He was telling the truth.
Tom hadn't shown up for work, obviously knowing he had just confessed a murder to somebody. And I was in complete shock.
You have to call the police.
I was scared that Tom was going to try to have me help him in some way because he didn't seem to have any friends. Everybody was very much on edge and scared.
David felt like it was important enough to call us, and we really appreciate what he did. David said that Thomas admitted he bought a drain cleaner.
They thought they were going to pour acid on him to disintegrate the body. They watched too much TV.
As the hunt for Tom begins, police find his girlfriend, Michelle, and bring her in.
I said to Michelle, I gotta be honest with you, if somebody else killed Mr. Pollow, I would be saying, hey, why am I sitting in jail for something I didn't do? Michelle initially said she helped move the body. And then 30 seconds later, she said that she didn't help, she just watched as Tom did it. So I don't know which is true.
There is no doubt in anyone's mind that Tom killed Ashley. And with her 3 kids to consider, Michelle agrees to cooperate with police.
We want to get her and Tom talking between one another.
They're picking you up. So if we both go, then my kids are raised by DCF. Is that what you're telling me? Then what do you want me to do?
I don't know, Shell. I don't know.
I'm never going to see my kids again because you did some bad. What the dude?
She was afraid they were both gonna wind up in jail, and who's gonna take care of the kids now?
Knowing she's being recorded, Michelle makes up a little lie in the hope of getting Tom to slip up.
AP had a webcam going.
It was ingenious for her to say the web camera was on, and the panic over the web camera, that was very telling in my mind.
Tom is fooled by Michelle's ploy. He's also no magician when it comes to disappearing.
You said you want to make sure the kids are safe, and they would be at my mom.
Do you have to stay at your mom's? Because they know where your mom lives.
So it doesn't matter. I'm not running from anything.
They went and took custody of him at his mom's house.
We found out that he had been arrested, and of course I was relieved.
I was nervous about Tom confronting me. I mean, there was tons of things that ran through my head. For Tom and Michelle to be able to do what they've done, you can't help but think what else they're possibly capable of and to who else they could do that to.
The fact that I could be friends with somebody that had seriously just strangled somebody is sick. I was so disappointed with Tom and certainly with myself for not even acknowledging or realizing any of this. And that in itself is messed with me more than anything.
I cared for Ashley a lot in the sense of him as a person and what he had been through. And there was still a nice, lonely man there that you tried to help.